Okay, hello everyone. Group room 4 is finishing up. Okay, uh, and I have to get situated with which screen I'm using here. Okay, uh,
Henry,
so
Henry,
all right, I get the
Henry,
sense of oh,
I don't think you can hear us yet. Can you hear us?
unable to hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh yes, right. I
Good.
keep on forgetting that
We're
you know
here.
when you join with multiple devices, you gotta turn off the speaker from the other devices, and then when you go back to the original state, one forgets to turn on the speaker. So I I go through a process of thinking that you're all not listening to me because
Henry,
I can't hear any responses. Okay. All
Henry,
right.
we've had another conversation in our group about, what we mentioned before we went in the group about attitudes, perceptions, values, all these terms that can mean such dramatically different things in social science, psych-based research. So I did a little bit of digging because folks were like, isn't it the same? What does it mean? I found a textbook chapter that might be interesting for folks to share. I'm not an expert in this, so
Yeah,
caveat.
here's the definitive book.
Oh, which one is that?
It's I know you can't see it as well, but it's by this social scientist Azan and Fishbein.
What is the title? I'll look it up by title.
Understanding attitudes and predicting social behavior. And actually, I have a very good 1-page, I'll put it on the website, on how to distinguish perceptions and attitudes. And essentially, a perception, very simply, is simply how I see the world. Whereas an attitude is more of an evaluative component. What I think about what I see about the world.
Right.
Okay. And again, perception. Oh, this is how I see the world. No evaluative component. This is what I see. It may not be correct, but this is what I see. And attitude is, well, what I think it should be. A lot of attitude statements are associated with the word should. That's an attitude. I think it should be this way. I see a lot of research misconduct in my university. I think someone should do something about it. I think the university officials should do something about it. That's an attitude. Now it gets even more trickier when you try to make a distinction between opinions and attitudes. Okay, but I'm not ready to travel that pathway right now.
Henry, would you say that when our folks here are looking at measuring either attitudes or perceptions, that it is really helpful to look at existing scales that measure either attitudes or perceptions and ideally use those? Because I know there are tons of scales out there for a variety of different contexts, either on attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, and so on. So is that a safe strategy?
Well, you ask a good question. I'm using a scale. I guess I'm a little bit
I mean, scale or survey. So, I mean, just a certain.
Okay, well, the survey is going to be context dependent on what questions you ask, okay? Which now gets into the whole concept of survey development, okay? And so how do you develop the questions on the survey? Or for example, what kind of attitudes do you want to assess on a subject matter of research misconduct? And once you have all the important attitudes, that's your scale. But how do you complete the picture of all the attitudes that you want to measure? So, developing a survey, the first step is how do you pick your questions? And there's several techniques for that. One could look at previous surveys, pick out the attitude questions. One could look at the literature, or one could use the Delphi method, consult some experts in the field and have them help you develop the survey questions. But the days of just sitting at your desk and writing out some questions that doesn't cut it. So there isn't an attitude scale similar to the concept of a depression scale. Or an anxiety scale. The attitude scale has to be related to your subject matter. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm just saying this because I'm seeing a lot of proposals that want to use surveys and that are, and to investigate some really interesting areas. And there is, I think, a certain level of complexity needed for these surveys. And I'm just concerned that, what it might take to develop these surveys in an amount of time that folks want to do that.
Right. Exactly. It takes a lot of time. We spent a year developing a survey measuring a questionnaire for assessing for the public regarding biobank research. And we went through a whole process of developing the pool of questions and then using a sample size of like 300 members of the public to validate that survey, and that in it of itself was a research project, and it's I'm happy to say it's being published as a separate article on validation. And there's been many articles just being published just on validating a survey. That in and of itself could be a research project. So, but I agree, studies looking at surveys, it all depends on whether the survey has been validated or not. And if it hasn't, no problem. That's a research project, validating a survey. So has let me close the breakout rooms. Get room 4 back here. Okay. All right, good. All right, let me see if we'll give. I think the right. So all right. So good point about surveys. Actually, I've come to the conclusion that an interview study is probably easier than doing a survey study because of that point. There's no validation process for a interview study except for the fact that, well, even your interview guide is a baseline. The hardest part about interview studies is trying to ask about interviewing techniques and asking probing questions. When people send me their audio tapes of their interviews to be transcribed, and I see that the interview lasted only 30 minutes, I get worried that there wasn't enough digging around doing the interview because it takes a certain skill to do interviews. But anyway, be that as it may, I think everyone is back. So anyway, let me leave with some thoughts, and I invite the faculty to share any of their thoughts. But my thoughts is I think this has been an amazing 3 days of exploration and developing proposals. I think the success of any research study lies in its preparation, and preparation is 80% of any research project. And we have started our preparation, and I hope people see that it's there's a lot involved in preparing a good proposal. I think that my assessment is that there's a lot of really interesting proposals, and I see these proposals being developed, and I think in general we're standing on a firm foundation. I really do. I'm really excited at the progress. And now, having said that, I don't think we stand on a firm foundation, but I don't think we're ready to build the house yet. We need more preparation, which is to be expected. We've only spent a few days, but I think the foundation is firm as opposed to being soft, okay? And so I'm really, I like to exhibit some positive thinking about the future. I think we have an amazing group of participants in this program, and we all are each contributing to the success of other proposals. I also like to, I don't have to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I think we have an amazing group of faculty members to help us steer through some choppy waters here. I think that we have an amazing combination of experts to help us navigate through these waters. And I think it's, I don't think it's usual to have access to the different moving parts that are necessary to develop a research proposal and help us navigate through the process. So I like to thank the faculty for being accessible, available, and quite helpful. And I think this is an amazing combination of excellent participants and excellent faculty. And my last thought for the moment is that if this is going to continue to work, we need to be persistent and practice good time management and trying to keep on moving forward. And the faculty will keep you moving forward, keep on going. Now, having said that, we all have busy lives, professional and personal lives that will, are obviously a part of us. And life events will tend to come up and present a momentary interruption or whatever you want to call it, and that is to be expected over a year's time. That is to be expected, and well, all I'm trying to say is that will be factored in. That's part of life. It's going to happen. Okay, and in this crazy world we live in, especially with the pandemic, it's going to happen, but we will prevail, and as long as we're able to make mid-course correction, and we're able to exhibit some good lateral thinking in combination with our positive thinking, not to mention our creative thinking as well. Okay, and so I am very optimistic, and I'm proud to be a part of this group. And let me also say that having said all this stuff about life, blah blah blah, feel free to lean on us. Okay, with your with whatever comes up. Okay, we're here to help. I guess I guess we don't have uh I'm trying to search for the right word for a psychologist on our team. Not that I think we really need one, but I think we're all good at trying to manage life events. Okay, we all come with different experiences. So let me stop babbling. Any further thoughts from members of the faculty or from the participants in this program?
I wanted to say something real quick, everyone, and thanks for being so sweet in your comments. I've gotten a lot of private messages about Tommy, so he's been watching TV all morning, so he's in heaven. But one of the things that we discussed, I think, right before we went to the breakout room and in our group as well, in our breakout room, because Emmanuel shared his screen of his Mendeley folder. I don't know, Emmanuel, would you mind sharing that again if you have that up? Because the question came up that Emmanuel was asking, like, is this now a good time to review the literature, or is it too early? And Henry and I, we were all like, and Mary were like, no, absolutely, this is a good time. No, many of you are, all of you probably are already familiar with the literature, but Emmanuel shared with us that he was looking at some specific research around his research question, and here he's sharing with us his Mendeley folder. If you're not familiar with Mendeley, it's a free resource where you can store information. I can share some videos on Mendeley that my colleague in our library shares. It's a open software. You don't need to pay for it. I don't know what access issues are internationally, but I know folks around the globe use it. So if you haven't ever used it before, I will put some videos on my scientific writing component on the Moodle. If you're interested in using it, I use it all the time for my work, but it helps organize all the literature on the topic. So, and especially for those of you who are doing survey-based research, this is a good time to look for existing surveys that might help you either use it for your own purposes or start developing something you can start validating your surveys. So again, from a writing perspective, Tommy muted me, apologies. I was like, what's going on? So thanks, honey. And so he's like, you're talking enough, Mom. It's okay. So just one last word from a writing process perspective. Thanks, Emmanuel. You can stop sharing if you like. I appreciate that. From a writing process perspective and what the research shows around effective writing processes, which can be different for different people, but some universal, I think, truths are that as you start developing your research question, your objectives, you need to really at the same time really mine the literature to make sure that the gap that you think you've identified is in fact a gap, or actually how wide is the gap? Is it maybe narrower or wider than you thought? And that will then help you develop your research questions, objectives, aims, and so on further, and ultimately determine your methodology as well. So I just wanted to say that this is a good time to really get digging. And if you have any access problems to literature because they're from a North American, Western Europe context, send me an email, let us know on the Moodle. I'll see what I can do to make them available. I'm all about resource sharing, and we have access here at UMB to a lot of resources. So let us know if you're finding any issues with that, and we'll make those available to you. I don't know if that's really legal in terms of copyright stuff, but it's all in educational sense, so I'm okay to go a little pirate on this one. Thanks, everyone. I've really enjoyed myself.
I will cut that out of the recording.
I wanted to ask Elizabeth a question. Isabel a question, Henry, if that's okay. Hello. Can I go on?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, you said something earlier about a document on knowledge perception and all that. Could you share that? And also, if you come across any survey tool, you have a mind map of our work, you could also share. I, on my own part, I'm doing something to try to get, we've had Henry telling us not to reinvent a wheel. So I think we'll spend time looking for existing, and I think they're all there. So maybe you also maybe throw that in. It could also help.
Sure,
Help
sure.
us.
I have some things that I found on this knowledge, perception. Is it a perception attitude, the piece that you're mentioning, that you were talking about, Emmanuel?
Yes.
Yeah, Henry has this book. I don't know everybody was in the session yet. If you want to mention that book again, Henry, it's
Yeah,
an
I know
older
you can't
publication, but
see
it's
it.
gold standard.
I'll put it on the website.
Yeah,
Understanding attitudes and predicting social behavior. And it's I think the whole subject matter of understanding social behavior is fascinating. And so it's very complex, and I think, well, social science research, I have learned the very real importance of social behavior in many walks of life, and specifically in public health and also medicine, though in medicine we mainly focus on drugs, unfortunately, and not on social behavior. But that's a topic for a longer day. Good points, Emmanuel. Katrina, could I have access to a current version of SAS 9.4? I don't know what's the answer to that in terms of having access to a SAS program, but we'll take that offline. Okay. All right, good. Well, again, the forum is open continuously, and I'll continue with the forum within its current groups, and maybe I don't know, set up a separate forum for other types of questions. The short answer is you know how to get a hold of us, right? And we know how to get a hold of you. And I think that, again, it's we need to, in some fashion, keep on touching base with each other to make sure we're on track. And I'll run by some suggestions on how we could meet, not as a large group, but in smaller groups, so we could keep on sharing our progress together. I think that I'll send out some kind of announcement of I think within the next few weeks we should have, if not sooner, another rewrite of your proposals, 2-3 pages, longer introduction, a more definitive aim and specific objectives, and definitely within the next 2 weeks, some thoughts about your research design. That's the next step. We need to have that in your the research design, and then how you're going to analyze your data, and with those moving parts, you'll be ready to submit to the Research Ethics Committee, right? Okay, so so I think that's our aim for the next July and August, the end of August, we should have those proposals pretty much written up.
Henry, Emmanuel offered to walk folks through in like an hour or 2 hour sort of workshop on Mendeley if people are interested. And a couple of folks said they were. So if people has interest, I can send an email. I'll coordinate with you, Emmanuel, but I can sort of organize it and find some times that work for you, and then maybe see who's interested and who can join. So that's, we can use each other as resources too, right? So, because it's really great if you have somebody who'll walk you through Mendeley. That's what happened with me and my colleague. She worked me through it. That's really helpful to have a live session on that. So if you're interested,
okay, that's an excellent idea.
yeah, I'll send a survey out to everyone with some times after I email with Emmanuel and find some times that work for him.
Right, we could have a live session on that and record it for people who can't make it.
That
Excellent.
would be great. That would be great, actually.
Yes.
Thanks,
Right. Okay. Good. Good ideas. Love it. Gotta love it. Okay. All right. Other thoughts before we leave?
Yes, please. Are we going to have a schedule for meeting with our mentors? I think we received a table for mentor schedule for assigning mentors to each proposal. Are we going to meet with them until we submit in August or the end of August?
Well, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, what do you mean by meeting? I think that I see many different ways to communicate. One is through the forum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you already divided up into 4 forums with the mentors. And having said that, one could always request a separate meeting with the mentor for sure, and also a separate meeting with Isabel Rahab or Sama, and as I said before, I hope to have scheduled live webinars as a group, just like you just had a breakout room, right, with your group. So maybe after X number of weeks, we'll have such a meeting. If choosing a convenient time for most people is possible. And as I said before, once I figure out the time zones and maybe, have 2 groups meet at the same time who are relatively in the same time zone, I think I see 2 major time zones: the African Middle East time zone, and then we have the East Asia time zone. And the only people who are at a disadvantage are the people from the U.S. And I say that with a little bit of levity here, but I think it certainly is doable.
Thank you.
You'll get the support you need. Yes, right, Emmanuel. I like to know how to export my EndNote into Mendeley. I'm getting a little tired of EndNote. Okay.
Mendeley is so much better having used both, just as a short note, but that's just me. So yes,
Okay,
we'll get
all
you
right,
there,
so-
Henry. Emmanuel will get you here, I should say. No pressure.
I'm ready to convert. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, very good. Okay, good. So listen, have a safe rest of the day and the next few days as well. And we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks for a wonderful 3 days. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Frost.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, Tommy.
Bye.
Say bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
Esteban.
Bye,
everyone.
bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye, Tommy.
Bye.
Hi, Tommy. Bye.
Bye, Zainab.
Say bye, Henry.
Bye. Bye, Tommy.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.